Hey guys, it's Lindsay. We are going to do a yoga stretch today. I'm going to use 2 yoga blocks and a belt or a strap. So if you don't have yoga equipment, no problem. You can use books or pillows for the blocks. You can use a belt or like a robe strap. Got to get creative sometimes if you don't have the equipment. So we will start without any props. It's going to be pretty much like a full body stretch. You'll start with your right leg bent. So you'll have your knee in line with your ankle. Kind of keep the heel away from you so it's not too close, and then the left leg will match that on the outside. So I want the feet lining up with the opposite knees rather than crisscross applesauce. So walk those feet apart, lift up nice and tall through your chest, and then you'll start to come forward if it feels loose enough for you. Say that you're more tight, I would just say bring your hands behind you and keep your chest lifted. But otherwise, we're going to walk it forward. And for this whole class, I want you to think of doing full long breaths. And as you exhale, gently release a little bit deeper into the stretch. And lengthening your chest away from your belly. And you can always stretch your arms out overhead. I'm trying not to get too sandy, but I think by the end of the class, I will be quite sandy. I'm just gonna go for it. Good, move your chest towards your hands, find a little bit more length. And then walk your hands to you. And we're simply gonna switch our legs. So now bring that right leg on the outside and then walk your feet apart, foot in line with the opposite knee. And we're starting with that tall posture. If that's enough for you, just stay right here, place your hands behind you. If you want to advance it, we're gonna come forward into it. Let's keep a slight flex of the foot. So your heel is moving out, your toes are moving in. Good, and then as you're ready, deepening into that pose, coming down to your forearms, resting your head on a block, walking our arms out in front of you. I'm thinking of doing the opposite action of a crunch in your stomach. So your hips and your ribs are moving away from each other. We're lengthening the belly here. This should feel great on the hips and the low back. Good, and then walk your hands all the way to you. Brush it off if you're on the beach as me, like me. And then we're gonna come into butterfly. So bottoms of the feet together, Baddha Konasana. Pull the heels nice and close to your inner thighs. Now take your thumbs to the insides of the feet, press the outer edges, the pinky toe side of the feet together, and then peel open the big toe side of the foot. So the outer edge of the foot touching the floor is sealed, the inner edge of the foot is opening up like a book, and I'm pressing my knees to the floor. So if I wasn't using resistance right now, my own resistance, my knees would be here. That'd be me not actively working the stretch, but because I'm actively pushing with my outer thighs, it's helping me open up those inner thighs a little bit more. Good, and now I'm squeezing in at the same time, so there's a little bit of effort, you could say, and then I'll pull myself into the pose. And as much as we're working with effort and muscle activation, you also want to find that sweet spot of I'm working the posture, but I'm not causing more tension. So if you're gripping your cheek or your jaw right now, and that's you, try to relax. Nothing has to be perfect. Maybe your butterfly is this. It's all good. Wherever you're at is good. Wherever you feel a good stretch, that's where you want to be. No pain. Good. And now we'll round the spine. So I'm going to think of the top of my head going down towards my feet, pulling gently on the feet to deepen the stretch. And then roll it all the way up. Okay, let's grab that yoga strap, belt, whatever you have, whatever works for you. And then if you come into this position and you're really rounded here, I want you to sit on a pillow or roll up a mat and sit under a mat. Right leg will go straight out in front of you. Left leg will come to butterfly. Now your hips need to be level. A lot of times the straight leg goes forward. We need to pull that whole leg back, the whole leg. Pull that right hip back. Now take the strap around the right foot, strap the ball of the foot, and then lift your chest up. So first just find chest stacking over hips. Good, notice if you're rounding in your chest, spread the chest apart. Flex your foot, drawing the toes in, and firm your thigh. So this muscle right here is tight. Sometimes that's a little hard to connect to, so if you have a hard time, push into the muscle with your hand and try to mind-body mentally connect with that leg. Squeeze your thigh, lift your chest. Now lead with your heart as you pull yourself forward, bending your elbows. And I'm still thinking right hip back, left hip forward. Maybe this is enough for you. Maybe start to walk your hands down that strap, folding a little bit deeper. I like to fan my toes apart as well. That can always open up a whole new can of worms. All of a sudden you're like, I feel a stretch in the arch of my foot. Keep walking down the strap. Maybe you grab the foot, drop the strap, and fold in. If this is too deep, just stay with a higher variation of it. You can also go for that interlacing of the hands behind the back of the foot or a wrist clasp. I want you to pull yourself in the direction of your toes and then gently release and roll all the way up. So match your right foot to your left and straighten your left leg out in front of you. So setup is so important to really get the stretch. Pillow underneath the hips if we're dumping. We're going to pull this whole left hip back. So I don't want to see, unparalleled hips. Pull them back. Grab that left foot with the strap, one hand on each side, and first find your posture. So lift the heart, drop the shoulders, engage your core. Now, as much as we're pulling the left hip back, we're sending the left heel forward. So that's opposition, right? Top of the leg pulling back, bottom of the leg reaching forward, and that's how we get that stretch in the back of the leg here. Good, I'm tightening my thigh muscle, and I'll start to bend my elbows and pull myself into the stretch. And remember, I'm just layering, so if the first thing was enough for you, just stick with that one. This is a video you'll definitely be able to grow with. Still feeling good? Let's take it a little lower. Start to fold into the stretch. Maybe you grab the foot. I like to interlace my hands, or if I feel really loose that day, I go for my wrist bind. And even once I get into this really deep hold, I'm still stretching my chest over my knee. And then release and bring it all the way up. Okay, both legs are going straight. I like to do a flesh pull here. So you just pull the flesh out from underneath you. It helps boost your spine up. Both feet will be strapped this time, right at the ball of the foot. One hand on each side. First, lift the chest up. We're in Dandasana. Flex the heels, draw the toes in, and firm the thighs. So my kneecaps are pulling up the front of my legs, and my heels are sliding down the back of my legs. And this could possibly be plenty of a stretch. And now hinging from your hip creases, meaning when you start to lean forward, try not to collapse here. Move the whole torso in one piece. So I'm pulling on the strap and I'm leaning straight forward, aiming my chest over the toes rather than down towards my knees. Abs are tight. That's going to help with holding up the lift of this posture. Good. Continue to hinge forward. Walk the hands down the straps. And think about doing a squeeze of the shoulder blades in and down. I'm going to start to fold deeper if that's an option for you. You can drop the strap, grab the outer edges of the feet, and pull the outer edges of the feet back to you. Release your head towards your knees. Once I fold low, I then re-lengthen. So I think of the top of my head pulling out of a turtle shell. That's actually my favorite analogy here because I think it totally makes sense. We're kind of rounded in our shell. We're going to stretch our neck out. And then maybe you interlace beyond the bottoms of the feet. You can also walk the hands past the feet, stretch to the wall in front of you. And then start to take it all the way back in. Okay, so I'm going to turn to face you guys. moving into Gomukhasana, this is a big hip stretch. So you can also use the pillow underneath your hips for this one. Right knee, deep bend of the knee. It's gonna line up with your belly button. So I don't want it out here. We want it straight forward, pointing to the wall in front of you. Left leg will cross over top of that. So the pillow should be underneath your left hip if you're feeling like this. Otherwise, I'm going to sit weight down into my left hip so my right hip isn't carrying all the weight. I'm gonna deepen the cross of my legs. So it's pull those feet to the opposite sides, lift up nice and tall. Hands behind your back. From here, if you're feeling good, you're gonna start to walk forward into it. I find that the hips give people a lot of tension. So if you're feeling like this is a place you hold a lot of tightness, let's take some big, deep breaths. Focus on the balance between working the stretch and releasing into it. Then you can bring those hands in front of you. And walk your hands back in. Bring your hands to prayer. You're going to take your right arm outside of your left leg. Then lift your chest up and twist. Push your left leg away from you. Look over your right shoulder and spread the space between the heart. And release the twist and lean off of the legs. So take it to the other side. We have our left leg on the bottom now. Knee is pointing towards me. Right leg on the top. So I'm walking my feet away from my hips, sitting down into that right hip. Remember to slide that pillow there if you feel really off the ground and just kind of suspended in space. That'll definitely help the stretch. So knees more or less in line with the belly. Hands can be behind your back to keep your chest tall. And if this is good for you, we're gonna walk forward into it. And maybe walk all the way out, stretching for the front wall. Then hands back to you, prayer hands, left elbow outside of the right leg, and then lift up, straighten your spine, and now push into your palms, push your left elbow into your right knee and twist. And then release the twist. Okay, Upavishta Konasana, also known as our straddle pose. So let's use the strap for this one. So my legs are going to be wide apart, and I'll take the strap around the bottom of the feet. Now this one can definitely have the pillow as well. So pretty much, if you're dumping in your low back, pillow up underneath your butt. Strap's going to the bottom of the feet. Good. Kind of widen your stance, wiggle it a little out. Pull into the strap and lift your chest up. Turn your inner thighs up, seal the outer edge of the hip down. But I'm strongly flexing, and then I'm going to pull my chest straight forward. And I want you to aim for a flat back, so chest over the strap. Be nice and proud here. Draw your glutes together. Lean into it, bringing your chest towards the floor. Hopefully I don't pancake down because I'll get quite sandy. Go ahead, use your core, lift all the way back up. So take the strap off the right foot. The strap will just stay around the left foot. Keep your left hip and thigh down. So not lifting this guy up, keep it on the floor the whole time. One hand on each side of the strap. I want you to twist your body so that your knee is at the center of your chest as much as you can manage. Chest lifts up, bend your elbows, pull yourself forward. This is when this left hip likes to leave the floor. Left hip down. So maybe this is where you stay or you start to walk into it. and fold down. Now there's a big twisting action in the spine here. So I want to drop my left waist down and lift my right waist up. And then from here I come down into the stretch. And you can reach for the foot and release the strap if that's right for you. Good, actively pull those shoulders off the neck. Good, and then release and roll it up. So we'll take our right elbow inside of our right thigh, and then lift your body up so you're nice and tall. Push your leg away from you and stretch that left arm up and over. Make sure that your left palm is not facing up, it's facing the floor. And then maybe you deepen, grab for the right foot and twist up. Good, and roll it up. Okay, let's take the strap over to the other side. So I'm going to strap this left leg. Okay, so we're working to keep the right hip down. So hip, glute on the floor. Tuck it underneath you. One strap in each hand, and we're taking a twist. So now the left knee is at the center of the chest. I'm pulling into that strap to get some height in my spine. Now keep that long straight spine as you start to lean into it. And then to get a deeper stretch, walk the hands down the strap, start to fold. And one thing to notice about this leg behind you is it rolling in. I see that a lot, so try to maintain that turn out. Toes, knee, and top of the thigh should point up. And I'm gonna fold down into it, walking my hands to the foot, drop your right side down, lift your left side up, and twist your body towards the wall behind you. And then lengthen the neck and press your right sits bone to the mat. Good, and then walk it all the way back in. We'll go into our side bend. So you'll bring your left elbow inside of your left thigh and then lift up, press the leg away from you and twist. Stretch the right arm up, palm faces the right ear, and then we'll reach all the way up and over. And maybe this is enough right here, or you can slide into it and grab for the foot. And then I want you to think of bringing your chest and your head underneath that right armpit. Good, and then roll all the way up. Okay. Ready for a big one? This one's called fire log, ankle to knee. You'll bend your right knee in line with ankle. The modification for this is the first one we did, which would be to bring the left leg on the outside, but we're taking it up a notch. So we're going to stack that left leg. I know some of you are laughing right now, me saying this, but this is where you'll end up. Just keep practicing, it'll definitely happen. So my ankle and my opposite knee are lining up once again, just now they're stacked on top of each other. It's okay if there's a suspension here of this knee. If you're more comfortable, you can put a block there. Sometimes that's helpful to activate the hips and press open into the stretch. So I'm pushing my left knee down into the block, chest is up, and I'll lean forward. Kind of maybe you stay there for a couple moments, and then you feel like that's opened up a bit and you can get rid of the block. Good, find that you're evening out the weight in your hips. And let's walk those hands forward. I want you to look forward with your chest and your heart. Soften where you can. And then let's walk it in. And we will switch sides. This one might be good to just straighten the legs for a moment. Massage the knees out. It's pretty intense, yes. Okay, so left leg is on the mat. Right leg can cross in front, that's the modification. And then eventually one day you'll stack, bringing that right leg to the top. So you've got your opposite foot and your opposite knee lining up. You can try that block trip for a moment. So push your top knee down into the block. That should immediately help you open up that hip. Heels are flexing out. Chest is tall. Good, and then from here we'll lean into it. And one thing I haven't mentioned yet, but it's good to note, is You don't have to do the exact same thing on each side. You can have one side that is much more stiff, and this is just not accessible, whereas the other side, it was doable. So, you know, don't push into pain. Modify from one side to the other if it doesn't feel right on the body. That's definitely okay. I'm gonna slide the block out, and let's walk into it. Move your heart forward, slide your shoulders down. And then walk it in and brush it off. Okay, so we're going to meet at the front of the mat. We'll just put the strap aside for now, but we'll grab both of the yoga blocks, books, pots, whatever you're using to keep yourself a little propped up. Place them at the front of the mat, and then come on up to kneeling for me. So I'm gonna step my left foot forward and wide, a little bit wider than my left hip, and bring both yoga blocks in between or inside of that left leg. Knee over ankle, and walk my right knee back, untuck the toes, let the hips drop down. Now walk the blocks a little bit closer to you, come up onto your fingertips and lift your chest up nice and tall. Some of you, if feeling appropriate, lean your chest up and back into a back bend. Good, draw the front of the right hip forward and the back of the left hip back. Squeeze your front foot to your back knee, and then exhale out of the pose. Send your hips back, so your hips are over your right knee. Bring your blocks up really high, highest setting. Left foot in line with the left hip. Flex the foot and draw the left hip back in space. So we don't want this. See how my hips are kind of unsquared here? We want to pull the left hip back so both of the hip bones line up. Flex your toes, lift your chest, and reach it straight forward. So I would rather you be on much higher yoga blocks than be looking like this. Not as cute, right? So straighten out your spine, open your chest up. Good, now for me, I am more flexible, so it is appropriate for me to lower these guys down a little bit. Good, now start to move your chest towards the front of the mat. Good, maybe you stretch your hands forward and then drop your face in. Good. Try to lower your left hip down. Likes to hike up here. Walk the hands back to you. I'm going to take both yoga blocks to the left and bring the left leg across the mat to the right. So left leg right. Now again, I'm pulling my left hip back, hands to the yoga blocks, and reach your chest to the left corner of the mat. Hello, IT band. This one is intense. And maybe to go a little lower. Good, lengthening that spine here. Good, and then step all the way back to kneeling. And let's just place both flat yoga blocks long ways on the left. Right foot steps forward and wide. Hands to the blocks, walk the left knee back. So my front knee is going to be right underneath my front, or right over my front ankle. Pull the blocks to you, come up onto your fingertips and lift up. So instead of thinking of collapsing down into this stretch, I want you to get a little taller. Pull the right hip back and send the left hip forward. And then start to peel the chest back into a back bend. And then exhale out. We'll send the hips back. Bring the blocks up on the high setting. There's an ant. I always get eaten by bugs during these video shoots. Bring the right leg in line with your hip and straighten your leg. Now pull the leg back. Pull it back in space. Flex the foot, one hand on each block, and lift up, get tall. Right hand to the right hip, push the right hip down. Create length in the right oblique. Long side body. Good, now start to move forward in one piece with the spine. Maybe those yoga blocks drop a little bit, but be honest with yourself if you need to drop them or if you need to keep them higher. And then walking down into it if you are a flexy friend here. Good, and then back up onto the blocks. So both blocks will go to the right and bring them up a couple settings, a little higher, and bring your right leg across the mat to the left. Now we definitely do not want the right hip coming forward, so pull the right hip back or send your tailbone to the left. If you had a tail, wag it left. Hands to the blocks and reach your chest to the right corner of the mat. And try to keep this right foot active so it's not asleep, but the foot is flexed, heel reaching out. Okay, and then feel free to drop those blocks down. Good, and then step yourself back into kneeling. Okay, so we're gonna go into pigeon. I'm gonna show a couple options. You'll need just one yoga block. We'll start with the left leg. So for someone who is tighter, I'm gonna say put a mat, a pillow, or a block, or a book, you know, whatever you have, underneath your left hip. So left leg comes forward, my hip is gonna sit on the block. Heel toe the left foot across the mat, and then take a seat on the block with the left hip. Right hip forward, left hip back, so my hip bones are pointing towards the wall in front of me. And this could be plenty. So this is where I'll have you stay. If you're a little bit more loose, we're just gonna slide that block out and put it aside. We'll go for that more or less 90-degree bend. So I'm bringing my foot in line with my knee. Check your back leg. You want the top of the foot, the top of the knee, and the top of the thigh facing down. And then this left knee should be wider than my hip, so I'm in an externally rotated position. And then maybe you stay here. And then my full variation is going to be a twist. So I'll take the back of my right arm, reach it to the left, lower my right ear down to the mat, I'm looking left, and bring your left hand overhead. And then push the back of your arm and your left fingertips down, and we are twisting. It's a big opener right here, huh? Good, and then release, brush it off, and let's come to kneeling. Okay, so let's grab that yoga block, place the yoga block to the right side on the flat setting. Let's just set up the right leg with the block. So we have the right leg coming forward, my hip will sit down on the block, and then I'll heel toe the foot across the mat. Now, also pulling your heel closer is going to lessen the stretch for now. This is not ideal, having the hips open like this. Sometimes it's just going to be what it is, but knowing the correct alignment is really important. So we want these hips to face the front of the mat. So right hip back, left hip forward. So just working on that, but be patient with yourself. Might not happen today. So we'll come down if that's appropriate. Go for that more or less 90-degree bend. Right hip crease back, left hip forward, and I'm just checking the alignment of my back leg because I can't really see it unless I turn around. So just make sure the top of the leg faces down. And then if you want, we're going to take that twist over. Bring your left arm across the mat, back of the hand rests down. Rest your left ear to the floor, and then bring your right fingertips overhead. Push down into your fingertips and peel open that top shoulder. Okay, and then slowly release, coming up and out of that. Let's press it back to kneeling. We are going to get into the quads. So grab a yoga block. We'll step the left foot forward in line with the left hip and the knee. And then the higher the block, the easier it will be for you to reach back to get your foot. So start on a high setting, put the block right underneath your right shoulder, turn to your left and reach back for your right foot. If this is not accessible, you can also use the yoga strap to pull this guy in. And then if you'd like, you can lower the block, lower the hips. You can also have the option of coming down to a forearm. Good, and for this one, I like to roll around on the top of my right leg, rolling in and out with that thigh. So I get a big inner thigh stretch and more of that outer quad. Good, okay, release. Press yourself up and back, and then let's take it over to the other side. So you'll step that right foot forward, whoop, lost my balance. Bring the block on a high setting in the left hand, walk the left knee back. I'll turn to the right, reach back with my right hand and grab my left foot. Also, feel free to strap that foot and hold the strap. Otherwise, you can take it down to a flatter block, or you can take it down to a forearm. Open your chest up towards the right wall, and then I'm gonna just add that little kind of rolling right and left, exploring the stretch here, what feels good in my body. Good, and then release your foot, press up onto your hands, and just step yourself back to kneeling. Okay, so we are going to end with a supported back bend, which is just one of my favorite things. If you don't have yoga blocks, the first block or book, whatever you have, if you have a book, I'd probably put something soft over it, like roll your yoga mat over it so it's not so hard. Flatter setting if you have not done this before, and if you're really rounded in your chest or have just you're stiff in general, go flatter. Otherwise, you'll bring it up to medium. And then you can have your second block, or totally can use a pillow here for your head. Okay, so let's get comfortable after all that hard work. Stretching is work. Put the block, the first prop, whatever you have, at your shoulder blades. So the bottom of the block touches your shoulder blades. And then find your head with that other block. Right, so it should feel kind of puffed up in this position, right? Like the chest is higher than the hips. Your butt is not up, it is down on the ground. If you're not able to put your hips down on the ground, you need to lower that yoga block to a flatter setting. And now if you are a little bit looser here, slowly you'll just remove this yoga block and let your head drop to the ground. So that will intensify the stretch. But if that puts any strain on your neck or your shoulders, just put that block right back underneath your head. Let's flip the palms up to face the sky, and then feel free to be in a bent knee position or stretch out your legs. We didn't do much upper body. We focused a lot on the lower body today. So this could take a moment to kind of settle into. We did a lot of forward folding, and now we are extending the spine. So it definitely is changing our theme of the class for a moment. And I really like this one because I feel like it's just a counter pose to our everyday life. We're very much so rounding forward, and this is allowing us to open up. Now let's stretch those arms out to a T to the side walls. You can let your hands be suspended in the air or rest on the mat. Take a big breath into your rib cage, and a deep breath out. Pull the shoulders actively down and into the block. Bend your elbows into a cactus position now, so your elbow is in line with your shoulder, your palm is in line with your elbow, and tilt your elbows up and your fingernails down. I think I could lay here all day. And then let's lengthen the whole body. Reach the arms overhead, stretch the toes below you, just like you would in the morning when you wake up. Shoulders into the block, but actively reach your fingers and toes apart. And take a big breath in, and then exhale, bend your arms. Pick your head up with your hands, tighten your core, lift yourself up and off the block, and make your way to a seat. Well guys, thank you for stretching with me. It was a great way to wake up for the day. I have to go to the airport today, so I know this is good for me because I'm gonna be cramped up for a while. So I hope you feel loosened. This is great to do a couple times a week in between your workouts. It's great to do at night to relax. There's a lot of benefits of stretching, besides that it's good for your muscles and recovery, but also relaxation, which I think we could all use a little bit more of these days. So thanks for joining me for a yoga stretch. My name is Lindsay. Please subscribe to Pilates On Demand, and I will see you guys on the next one. Namaste.